All right, is it good to start, Laura?
Yes, Brady, sorry.
Okay,
Give me just one moment,
all right,
and we are on the record.
okay. Good evening. It is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, and the time is approximately 6:30 p.m. My name is Brady Goldsmith, designee at this hearing for the Montgomery County Department of Transportation for the Flower Avenue Separated Bike Lanes project in Silver Spring. Here with me this evening to conduct this public hearing are Joseph Mogus, Chief of MCDOT's Division of Transportation Engineering, Mr. Khurshid Bilgrami, the project manager of the proposed project, and Ms. Uma Kota, the principal design engineer with Stantec. Mr. Mogus will be providing the information and details regarding the proposed project. Thank you for joining us on this virtual platform. Although we've had quite a few virtual hearings, we are still learning, so please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties tonight. Please note that tonight's hearing is being recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the project website by 5 p.m. tomorrow. A link to the project website will be provided on your screen and is at the top of the chat box on this virtual platform. You may notice that your video camera is turned off by default this evening. To reduce the bandwidth of this meeting and maximize technical efficiency, we request that you please do not turn your video camera on. Likewise, your microphones have been muted. Once the testimony portion of this hearing begins, those who have signed up to testify will be called on and asked to unmute when it is your turn to speak. Once invited to unmute, you can unmute yourself by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen. If you've not signed up in advance to testify but wish to do so, please raise your hand by clicking the react icon at the bottom of your screen, then clicking raise hand. If you're joining us via telephone only, you may raise your hand by pressing star 9 on your telephone keypad and star 6 to unmute yourself once you have been invited to unmute. Please wait until the testimony portion of this hearing to raise your hand. You may raise your hand at any time during the testimony portion. We will call on you to provide your oral testimony and unmute your microphone when it is your turn to speak. Written testimony and comments may be submitted as well and will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. If time allows, following the testimony portion of this hearing, we will hold a question and answer session. You may also raise your hand to ask a question, or you're welcome to type your question in the chat box, the icon for which is at the bottom of your screen. Tonight's hearing is being held pursuant to Section 49-53 of the Montgomery County Code as amended by Bill number 24-13. The purpose of a public hearing is to obtain testimony regarding the design of the potential project. The testimony received may influence the final design of the project. Public comments should be focused entirely on the project, which is the topic of discussion. All interested persons are entitled to be heard at this hearing. However, the testimony portion of this hearing is not a forum for dialogue, questions, and answers, or cross-examination. Please direct your remarks to the specific project that is the subject of this hearing. If your comments stray into areas unrelated to this project, I will ask you to refocus your comments to the subject project. Following the conclusion of this public hearing, the record will remain open for 4 weeks to allow any person who was unable to attend this hearing an opportunity to have their written testimony and comments included in the public record and be fully considered. The official closing date by which all comments and testimony must be received is Wednesday, January 7th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Submissions may be emailed or sent via regular mail and must be received or postmarked by the close of the hearing period. Please be sure to provide your name and property address on your submission. Written submissions will be considered with the same weight as oral testimony. Submissions should be sent to Khurshid Bilgrami, project manager, whose contact information is posted at the top of this evening's chat as well as on your screen. After the hearing is concluded and the record is officially closed, I, as hearing officer, will review and weigh all of the information submitted into the public record and make a recommendation to the Director of Transportation, Chris Conklin, for his final decision as to whether this project has been shown to be in the public interest and whether to authorize this project as proposed or any portions thereof. And now, to discuss the proposed Flower Avenue separated bike lanes project. I give you Joe Mogus.
Good evening, Mr. Goldsmith and Mr. Bill Grami. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joe Mogus, Chief of the Montgomery County Department of Transportation, Division of Transportation Engineering. Tonight's public hearing concerns the proposed Flower Avenue separated bike lanes project and related improvements along the corridor. A downloadable display is available in the hearing transcript to help visualize the project. I'll reference these visuals as I describe key features. The project extends along Flower Avenue from Piney Branch Road, or Maryland 320, to Arliss Street, or Maryland 594D, totaling approximately 0.2 miles, or slightly over 1,000 feet. Let me begin by going over the proposed design displays. First, let's take a moment to reorient ourselves. Please find the north arrow on the upper right corner of the slide. You'll note that north is oriented to the right of the screen. So Flower Avenue spans from left to right on this slide. Display A shows a separated bike lane in each direction crossing the signalized intersection of Flower Avenue at Piney Branch Road. The signalized intersection will be a protected intersection, promoting safety for all road users by reducing vehicle speeds, increasing visibility, and minimizing conflicts between pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. The present bus stop shelter on the southeast corner, or the lower left corner in the image, will be relocated closer to the roadway. MCDOT proposed signal phasing changes prioritizing pedestrians and cyclist safety. An acceptable level of service will be maintained, which demonstrates safe operations for the intersection. The plan allows for on-street parking along both sides of the roadway north of Piney Branch Road, which is a top priority of the business owners. This slide represents the existing and proposed cross-section south of Piney Branch Road. There's a major redesign focusing on adding protected bike lanes and standardizing the travel lane widths while maintaining the overall number of through and turning lanes. A 2-foot brick paver strip is added between the southbound or left sidewalk and bike lane. The left side now has a dedicated 5-foot buffer between the bike lane and the travel lanes. The northbound or right side introduces a 9-foot 4-inch buffer and floating bus stop between the northbound travel lane and the bike lane. The bike lane will be behind the floating bus stop. The plan retains the same number of vehicle lanes, 1 through lane in each direction and a left turn lane, but changes their widths. The display B shows a section of Flower Avenue just north of its intersection with Piney Branch Road. You'll notice multiple lanes for both traffic and bicyclists indicated by different colors and widths for bike lanes and vehicular lanes. Dedicated bike lanes are shown in the darker shade along both sides of the roadway, separate from the vehicular lanes. The design incorporates trees, depicted as green circles, along the sides of the roadway, which would help provide shade, improve aesthetics, and contribute to a more pedestrian-friendly environment. Parking spaces are shown at the bottom right, with designated accessible spaces near the roadway's edge. The design includes a raised crosswalk near bus stops and the urban park, with a push-button activated rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFBs, to improve pedestrian safety. This design emphasizes a multimodal approach, balancing vehicle traffic with enhanced pedestrian and bicyclist infrastructure. The focus is to improve safety, accessibility, and the overall urban environment. This slide represents the existing and proposed cross-section north of Piney Branch Road. This typical section includes widening the roadway 2 feet to the east side of the roadway. The existing roadway would be widened not to make the street wider, but to account for the shifting of the center line of the roadway to the east. This proposed typical section is comprised of one 11-foot southbound through lane, one 11-foot northbound through lane, one 10-foot southbound left turn lane, 2 8-foot on-street parking lanes on both sides of the roadway, 2 3-foot buffers between the parking lanes and the 5-foot bike lanes on both sides of the roadway, and sidewalks of varying widths on both sides of the roadway. Display C shows the northernmost section of Flower Avenue between the urban park and Arliss Street. Please note that Arliss Street is now a state-owned roadway and now formally labeled as Maryland 594D, as mentioned earlier. As shown on this slide, the section continues to have separated bike lanes and wider sidewalk with a large number of new street trees and plantings placed between the travel lanes and the bike lanes. High visibility crosswalks will be installed at the intersection of Flower Avenue and Arliss Street. The existing bus stops are repositioned along the improved streetscape. North of Arliss Street, Flower Avenue will revert back to one northbound travel lane and one southbound travel lane. The overall goal of these modifications is to transform this section of Flower Avenue into a more multimodal, pedestrian-friendly, and cyclist-safe corridor, improving connectivity to the future Long Branch Purple Line station on Arliss Street. This slide represents the existing and proposed cross-section of Flower Avenue between the Urban Park and Arliss Street. The planned cross-section has bike lanes that are 5 feet wide with buffers that are 6 to 9 feet wide and travel lanes that are 11 feet wide. On the east side, the proposed sidewalk varies between 8 to 11.5 feet, 8 feet wide alongside a 2-foot buffer and 5-foot bike lane. On the west side, the proposed sidewalk varies between 6 to 8 feet width alongside a 2-foot buffer and a 5-foot bike lane. Beyond the bike lanes, the project includes several other vital infrastructure and streetscape improvements. Existing sidewalks will be reconstructed to meet modern ADA accessibility standards, making it easier for everyone, including those with mobility challenges, to navigate the area. New curb ramps will be installed at intersections to improve access and safety. Crosswalks will be realigned and upgraded for better visibility and pedestrian flow. Driveway aprons will be modified to match new sidewalk grades and ensure smooth transitions. Drainage features such as catch basins will be added or improved to reduce runoff and protect infrastructure. The project includes designated areas for tree protection and new plantings, contributing to a greener, more attractive corridor. Existing utilities will be carefully managed to avoid service disruptions and ensure long-term compatibility with the new design. It's important to note that the project requires acquiring right-of-way from 3 properties. The property acquisitions are in the process. We appreciate the community support as we work together to make Flower Avenue safer, more accessible, and even more beautiful for everyone. The estimated cost for installing the Flower Avenue separated bike lanes project is approximately $7,078,207. Estimated costs include construction, inspection, and administrative costs. Funding for this project will be provided under the Purple Line BIPA, or CIP number 0502004. There are no properties considered to be specially benefited by the proposed improvement. Therefore, no properties are expected to be assessed. As previously discussed, several exhibits are incorporated into the public record binder for your information and consideration. The exhibits include 1, Office of Management and Budget, Purple Line BIPA P0502004. 2, Project Vicinity Map, Flower Avenue Separated Bike Lanes Proposal. 3, Montgomery County Government press release circulated and published on Twitter, Reddit, Newsbreak, Post Social, Mastodon, and Nextdoor social media websites on November 13th and November 14th, 2025. The Washington Times proof of publication for newspaper and online advertisements circulated November 26th and December 3rd, 2025, and in the Go Montgomery newsletter circulated on December 9th, 2025. 4, all written testimony to date regarding the proposed separated bike lanes on Flower Avenue. 5, list of attendees to be added following this hearing. 6, hearing transcript, also to be added following the hearing. Project-related data and files can be downloaded from the project website, a link to which is on your screen. The files will continue to be available to the public until the record for this public hearing is officially closed on January 7, 2026. If the proposed separated bike lanes project is approved, MCDOT will finalize the design and open the project for contract bids for the construction of the project. As previously stated, Mr. Khurshid Bilgrami, project manager, and Ms. Uma Kota, principal design engineer with Stantec, are here with us this evening. They will be available after the testimony portion of this hearing to answer any questions regarding the construction aspects of this project. And now I turn the meeting back over to Mr. Goldsmith. Brady?
Thank you, Mr. Mogus. We will now hear testimony from those in attendance who wish to testify. If you have not signed up to testify but decide you would like to, please click on the React icon in the bottom menu bar, then raise hand to raise your hand. Alternatively, if you join the meeting by phone, you may dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. Once you are invited to speak and unmute yourself, please unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen or by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Please clearly provide your name and address for the record prior to beginning your testimony. In addition, you may submit your full testimony in writing. These submissions will be fully considered along with the oral testimony heard here today. Please reserve all questions for the question and answer session following the testimony portion of this hearing. We will begin with those who have signed up in advance to testify at this evening's hearings. Again, please be sure to announce your name and property address before providing your testimony.
All right, first we'll hear from Suzanne Ludlow.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Ludlow. I live at 8718 Guerin Road. I face Flower Avenue Park, and I can see Flower Avenue from my front window. I will submit written testimony, but there's a couple points I want to make. First of all, I'm very pleased that this project is proposed, and I appreciate the county working on bike access and pedestrian safety. Recently, I was doing traveling on an electric mobility scooter, so I'm very familiar with the sidewalks in this area, and I'm looking forward to see them improved. The area that I am most concerned about is the crossing at Flower Avenue Park. It is a place that a lot of people cross because it goes from quite a few residences over to the destination of the giant parking lot, the library, the rec center, and a variety of other businesses. And it will be to the direction to the Long Branch Purple Line stop. The raised crosswalk, I think, is not the best idea for crossing at this location. I have mixed feelings about raised crosswalks in the first place. It feels a little bit like you're at Target crossing one as a pedestrian. But in this location in particular, I think it's problematic because it's narrow. And we'll have bicyclists and pedestrians crossing here. And at least from the plans, it looks in the range of about 10 to 12 feet wide at the widest. I don't want to be angling down a slope on a raised crosswalk if a bicyclist is coming at me. So that is an area that I think needs to be addressed. I urge more than just a flashing light, a pedestrian pushed flashing light. I would like to have one that actually does stop traffic. I'd like to have that kind of signalized crossing at that location. My other area of concern is at the intersection with Arliss. I do not feel that that's the right place for the bike lanes to end. It's not a signal. It will not be a signalized intersection at this point. But I think it will be a busy and problematic intersection with difficulty in sight line, particularly because there's a little bit of a curve to the road, and there will be the semi trucks that serve the deliver to the Giant coming through that intersection. I would prefer that the bike lanes continue to Plymouth and that there'd be a more substantial crosswalk either at Arliss or at Plymouth to designate that between the area of kind of Plymouth and Piney Branch, that this is a pedestrian heavy location. The other major point I'd want to make is I appreciate that there's some large trees planned for the area. I think that's a real improvement to the area. A very minor item is I appreciate changing the description of Piney Branch Road on the signs to call it going north and south because that's how it feels. So just that's a small note. Again, I appreciate the work on this project. I look forward to the improvements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next, we'll hear from Michelle Terry.
Hello, my name is Michelle Terry. I live at 9304 Saybrook Avenue, which is just a little bit up the road from where this project is planned. Um, I've been living in this area for about 10 years, and I've been driving through this intersection and this stretch of flower on a near daily basis for about 10 years. And so when I first saw this project was proposed, my first concern was for cyclist safety. There's a lot of the driveways that come in and out of the parking lots there. They're very active, especially at rush hour. There's lots of drivers that are cutting across traffic, right turns, left turns, kind of butting in here and there, that sometimes it feels a little bit unsafe, even as a driver. So I want to comment in support of the buffers that you are putting in to protect the bike lanes. I was very pleased to see that that is part of the project here, and I think that's going to be a great addition for cyclist safety, as well as the general improvements to the road, to the sidewalks. Maybe we'll even get a little bit of a benefit of traffic calming in this area. I think that would be great to sort of encourage drivers to be more careful on this section, just because I've had a lot of near misses, even just as a driver. So strong support of the project. I do agree with the previous testimony that Arliss Street seems like a maybe not the greatest end for this project. But I understand there's probably space constraints that might prevent extending it further. But it's a good point with the trucks that come in to deliver to the Giant, the narrowing of the road there. Just something to consider. But overall, I strongly support this project, and thank you to the MCDOT for considering it.
Thank you, Michelle. That is it for those who were pre-registered to testify. Would anyone else like to provide testimony? You can raise your hand by clicking the react icon or by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. John Kent. Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Kent?
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you,
you got
Maria.
it.
I'm figuring out how to mute myself using my phone here. My name is John Kent. I live at 8910 Walden Road, not too far away from the Long Branch Library. I am a regular biker in the community, and I do bike along Flower Avenue to commute to Washington, D.C., and eventually get to the Metropolitan Branch Trail. And I'm a parent to teenagers, and we also bike around to get to Four Corners and kind of interact with the shopping and general recreation opportunities. So I am also pleased, like many of the callers, that this is being studied. One comment I have is it doesn't look, given the narrow scope of this project, that there is understanding of what the long-term goals are for, excuse me, traveling up and down Flat Avenue in the direction of Adventist University or going towards Four Corners, Blair High School, or Franklin Avenue in general. And I think my thoughts would be it would be logical to understand what the long-term goals are. I don't even know if Flower Avenue is the right venue to have a thoroughfare for bikes going from Franklin Avenue all the way down to Adventist University. And so I just want to make sure that that is considered. And I think an example, someone talked about what are the negatives of, and at Arliss, the Metropolitan Branch Trail just continued finished a very nice extension in DC that ends very abruptly. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what I'm referring to, right by Tacoma, DC. And I think there's some pedestrian bike conflicts there that could be concerning, and I don't want that to kind of be a short-sighted outcome of this sort of study. So I do encourage you guys to share with the public what the long-term goals are and seeing whether having bikes even at this intersection is advisable. Currently, I think a lot of people in the neighborhood bike along Walden Road towards the library. There's a bridge. I think there's a bike path and a pedestrian path that is used along Long Branch that doesn't seem to be well connected right now with the way the Purple Line is intersecting with that intersection where the Long Branch Creek runs underneath Piney Branch. And if the funding was there and the thoughts were there, I would imagine funneling traffic away from the busy intersection with all the turning and all the pedestrianism at Flower might be advisable, unless there truly is a long-term plan to go all the way from Adventist University to Franklin Avenue with dedicated bike lanes all throughout. Otherwise, it kind of seems like a small amount of bike-friendly infrastructure, which is great, that doesn't have a larger purpose. Similarly, going towards Silver Spring, when I use bikes, I don't go along the main thoroughfare of Wayne Avenue. There are single-family neighborhoods with bike charrettes that encourage you to kind of operate there, and there's less turning conflicts. And I think that seems preferable to actually being on a main thoroughfare, even if there were a bike lane. So I just think, alternate considerations should be made. But in general, I do use this intersection. I am pleased that the county is considering this, but I just do feel like this scope is pretty limited, and the best use for the space might be maximizing the sidewalk for pedestrian use to support safe pedestrian interaction, to encourage business interaction, whether it's seating for restaurants. And then lastly, I just want to say, it seems like with the Purple Line in flux and construction and future transit-oriented development coming in, what the future nature of this area, especially where the giant parking lot is, may change within the next 10 years. So I wonder if we're jumping the gun and understanding what the right amount of interaction for bikes with the community will be if we don't exactly know how the community will change with transit development. Especially, once again, I want to just reiterate, if we're not also considering the long-term flow of traffic over a mile or two. But once again, I do want to say I'm pleased that this is being done. I definitely support bike infrastructure, but I am concerned about putting bikes at such a heavy intersection when there might be other alternatives 1 block north or 1 block south. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So we did just have someone join us who was pre-registered to testify, so we'll circle back to friends at hands raised, excuse me, after we hear from Paul Grenier.
Okay, it looks like I'm unmuted now. I don't know if the video is supposed to show up or not. Can you hear me though?
No, well, I can hear you, yes.
Okay, well that's the main thing. Yes, I've been following this project from the beginning, and we're very happy to see it taking place. I'm with MHP, so I don't have an address in the neighborhood. My comments will pertain to the impact of the bike lane on the commercial area, which is my main work area. I noticed in the initial slide demonstrating what the bike lanes will look like on Flower Avenue in the section near the Flower Theater. On the slide, it looked like there were trees still stationed there. I don't know if that was just illustrative, but we would like to make sure that the trees to the left and to the right of the marquee of the theater be moved away, or simply we love the trees. We want lots of trees, but just not in the locations where they will block people's ability as they drive past to see what's written on the marquee there at the theater itself. A very specific request is on light pole number 251, which is by the Beijing Delight side of the street on the I guess that would be the south side of Piney Branch Road. We would like that pole to be replaced with a traditional light pole and that it would be fitted out with electricity so that it can be decorated and lit up for the holidays. The current pole, I believe, is that number 251 is not as far as I can tell on the map, slated to be removed. But our request is that that one it's the wrong size. It's in poor rusted condition. It doesn't have any electricity to it. So as long as we're redoing it, we'd like to see that one replaced. In general, since that intersection is key for the whole commercial area in terms of the aesthetic, we hope that there will be the decorative traditional light lamps in prominent locations at each of the four corners of the Piney Branch and Flower location. And in that same vein, we again very happy to see the new trees come in. Since everything is being dug up anyway, it would be really terrific if a conduit could be placed underground, which allows us to put lights and plug in lighted lights at all of the trees that are going to be newly installed, as is done in many other business districts. It'll add just a great deal to the aesthetics of the street, particularly when the trees are still small. When they're wrapped with lights, it really makes a huge difference. And this is the ideal time to try to install such a conduit. I think I could follow up offline with Khurshid Belgrami about the tree selection. When we were going through the plans, there's a great diversity of street trees mentioned, and I'm wondering whether the shade trees, it seems to me that they should all be the same species. The species list seems to be appropriate one. Large. I like the idea of large shade trees, particularly ones if that flower. But it makes sense to me that they would all be the same species and not many different ones. That's all I have. Thank you. And we very much support the project, and we're very glad that the DOT is pursuing it.
Thank you, Paul. Next up is Janice Roselle.
I'm wondering if we have to repeat the instructions for the phone
Yeah,
users.
to unmute yourself, you're going to press *6 on your telephone keypad. Or if you are at your computer, the little microphone icon is at the bottom left of your screen.
Maybe we can come back to
Yeah,
her.
we'll circle back to
Here it
Janice.
is.
Oh,
I'm
we got
sorry.
it.
There you are.
Okay.
I was trying to get it to unmute and it just wasn't happening.
No worries.
I live at 95 East Wayne Avenue in the apartment building right next to the Purple Line. I lived in this area before and I just moved back 5 years ago. And it's nice to see the project that's going on Flower Avenue and that particular stretch. But my main concern is, and I hope that this is addressed when you do the upgrades over there, is it's not pedestrian friendly. I don't have a car, so every time I go over there, the drivers, they do not slow up. Even with the blinking lights where the sign says you're supposed to stop, they don't stop. Sometimes I'll actually have to put my hand up. So my concern is that I think that, and I think one of the other, somebody else had mentioned earlier, is that a blinking light will not do. Some kind of real traffic light is better, because for pedestrians, that is dangerous over there. And during rush hour, it's even worse. So that's all I would like to see happen with the project, is that it is, that stretch area right there is just bad when it comes to the drivers. They don't stop at all. And I had a friend who even said to me, she was like, she was driving. I said, "Don't you see the sign that says to stop?" She goes, "Oh, I didn't know it was there." So people aren't looking. That's the bottom line. The drivers are not looking. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Janice. Next up is Jacob Barker.
Hi, my name is Jacob Barker. I live at 605 Hudson Avenue, apartment 322 in Tacoma Park in Ward 5. And I use this road to go grocery shopping all the time. And I also use it on my way to and from work. I'm very excited. I don't own a car. I bike almost everywhere. I'm very excited to see this protected intersection getting built at Flower and Piney Branch, especially because if I remember correctly, you are also in the planning stages of a Piney Branch bike lane as well as the Purple Line doing bike lanes. So I'm very excited to see the network actually being built out. So thank you for not just this little 1,000-foot stretch, but for everything that is being built in this area to actually make this place less car-centric and more people-centric. The raised crosswalk I'm super excited about, and I'm hoping that you can just do another one at the other crosswalk location where it meets Arliss, because raised crosswalks are better at slowing cars down, and they're more likely to see a pedestrian if they have to actually slow down to cross where people are going to be crossing the road anyway. So I would love to see another one there. I'm sure that the reason it's not proposed is because of the driveway that's there, but oh well, like people before cars, because if you aren't alive, you can't drive your car. I would also love to see at the raised crosswalk that is by the park. It's great that that crosswalk is there, but it is hard. Sometimes right now, the best, safest way for me to get up to this area and get to the Giant is to go through that neighborhood, come through the park, and cross the road right there. But then I have to get back on to Flower to then get into the Giant parking lot, because you can't go forward and then go down the steps. And it would be great to see more care taken with that whole property that gets you to where the Giant is. And I don't know if that's in some sort of scope that, or something that can be done, something that can be worked out with the property owner of the restaurant right there, so that an actual accessible walkway can be put in right there, something that people could roll up and down. Because it's not just bicyclists that need the accessibility. Like, people are in wheelchairs around here sometimes, and like they have to go the long way around right now to get to the Giant, because they can't just roll straight across, because it's multiple levels from the Giant parking lot to the other one. So, and like the accessibility of the whole area is important. Yeah. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, that's all we have. Would anyone else like to offer some testimony?
All right. Seeing none, thank you all for your testimony. Seeing that everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so, this concludes the oral testimony portion of this public hearing. We will now have a question and answer session. Please click the react icon, then raise hand to raise your hand, or press star 9 on your telephone keypad if you wish to ask a question. You may also type your questions into the chat box. If we run out of time before answering all questions, we will answer your questions via email in the days to come.
Okay, we have a question from Ann Fitzer.
For allowing me to ask my question. The chat is disabled, so you might, I don't know, you might open that up for others who may want to ask questions. But I had a question about the existing trees on Flower Avenue, and if the construction means removing those trees because there are some mature flowering trees closer to the Piney Branch intersection, and I'm unclear if the idea is that part of the budget is to remove the existing trees, and I'm wondering if this project is feasible while preserve. Well, that was a question, but anyway, not a testimony, but it would be nice to preserve some of they're beautiful in the spring. Thanks. Over.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, Suzanne Ludlow.
Thank you. I just had one follow-up kind of question or clarification, and that has to do with how the businesses on Flower can, especially like the liquor store and the Ethiopian market next to it, can get their large deliveries. Because currently they tend to park where in the park vehicular, like regular car parking is, or sometimes just in the travel lane. And with the change of the widths of the lanes, et cetera, I'm not sure that buses and cars would be able to get around them. So just was wondering how you envision them to be accommodated. Thank you.
Um, would anyone like to take that question, Uma or Khurshid?
Okay, I can answer that. I can answer that. The question which was raised by Suzanne. Um, to be honest, the parking spaces that are being created in front of the stores is the only source where the delivery trucks has to be scheduled. Now, what I had noticed is sometimes the delivery trucks they come during my site inspection. I noticed one or two times I think the trucks were parked all the way, taking away the pocket parking area as well as portion of the travel lane. And I think when this project gets built, what I perceive, my perception is that the businesses needs to accommodate, and then the pocket parking will be of course used all the time, and instead of blocking the only one travel lane, I think the deliveries have to be scheduled during non-business hours or in the nighttime in order to accommodate that. The just north of the intersection on the east side, they do have a pullover spot, but all the other stores they heavily rely on the roadway. They just park their box trucks and the delivery trucks, and then they unload the merchandise. So I guess after everything is done with the bike lanes and the sidewalk, and of course the pocket parking, I'm not taking away the pocket parking. If it is a box truck, which can still take like two parking spaces, if it comes during the day, it can be accommodated. But I think the businesses owners have to manage their deliveries to non-peak hours or in the nighttime, such like that. And regarding the question from Anne about the trees that are close to the intersection of Piney Branch Road, yes, those are largely grown trees. Like we described in the project description files, the center line of the roadway will be moved towards the east by 2 feet, and then we are trying to put the bike lanes and a buffer and all that. So we will do our best, ma'am, in order to save the trees. But if the tree happens to be like in the middle of the bike lane or something, and the right of way is already tired, and then we are We are acquiring the right of way from the private property owners. So those plats are already done. So we can only move so much or go around the tree so much. If it falls in the middle of the proposed bike lane or the sidewalk, where with the new orientation, then it has to go. But I can assure you that we will add the plantings. The number of plantings will increase and will not decrease overall. Thank you.
All right, question from Jacob Barker.
Is there someone who can speak to the broader pedestrian and bike goals of the Long Branch area, so that we can get like an idea of future projects and other projects that might be also being pursued that are related to this one?
That is not the scope of today's public hearing. It has to be restricted to the project limits. The question has to be restricted to project limit, which is Flower Avenue between Piney Branch and Arliss. However, if you go on our website, Montgomery County's website, where all the project listings are posted, you can find all the other details of the project on Piney Branch Road, Carroll Avenue, and how those are all will connect each other, and then access to the future Purple Line stations will be installed.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing that all questions have been answered, we will now conclude. Oh, sorry.
We just got one, Brady.
Okay, right.
Ann Bitzer.
Hi, thanks. Sorry, just a follow-up question on the timeline. I don't know if that's clear. I'm sorry, I haven't read all the stuff online, but what is the expected timeline if the project is approved?
Okay, if the project is already approved and it's funded through BIPA, as it was made clear by our division chief in the testimony. So right now the project is proceeding to 90% design, and the property acquisitions are also taking place, and the utility coordination is also being done. So after that, it will go. The final package will be prepared. The specifications and the project plans, and then it will go for open bidding and all that. So right now, the way the project schedule looks like, it's going to go to construction maybe in 2027. Well, our intent is we are doing our best. Our marching orders is to have this project built before the Purple Line station on Arliss Street is open for public.
Wonderful. We have a question from Paul Grenier.
Yes, this will be just very, very quickly about the mature trees on Piney Branch and Flower. I just thought that it's worth pointing out that those are virtually all of them are Bradford pear trees. They're very pretty in the spring. It is heartrending to take down mature trees, but they are at the end of their typical lifespans, and they're extremely invasive, and they're basically being replaced sort of everywhere you can anyway. And that they tend to be brittle and have branches come breaking down nowadays. So I just wanted to make that point while people were still here.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Any other questions? All right, so seeing that all questions have been answered, we will now conclude this hearing. We will keep the record open for 4 weeks. Comments and written testimony are due by Wednesday, January 7th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Additional written testimony and comments may be submitted by email and must be received or postmarked by the close of this hearing record. Submissions should be sent to MCDOT, Division of Transportation Engineering, Planning and Design Section. Attention, Khurshid Belgrami, 100 Edison Park Drive, 4th floor, Gatesburg, Maryland, 20878. Again, Mr. Belgrami's contact information is also posted on your screen. Thank you for joining us this evening. This public hearing is now concluded.